from the West Bank, but people see what is happening there. And with this pin, which is a pin we wear when we're in the Congress, my priority has to be U.S. national security. But why does this threaten U.S. national security? It threatens it because it's unjust. And when the United States is on the side of injustice, it harms our country. It harms our integrity. It harms our principle. It harms our standing in the world. People want to believe that we, as the world's leading superpower, live up to our highest virtues. And when we fail to do that, it threatens and endangers and undermines us. We went to an UNRWA school with these wonderful 12 and 13-year-old girls in hijabs, white, beautiful white hijabs. And they were doing a curriculum on international human rights. And it was neat because it was a Western pedagogy. They had discussion groups, they did role plays, they had Q&A. It was fun. We sat like flies on the wall at the very, very back. And I thought, I would sure like to see my colleagues who just reflexively vote on these darn resolutions come here and sit behind these wonderful children and say, I feel so good about voting on the resolution condoning Operation Cast Lead or voting for the resolution condemning the Goldstone report. How could you possibly feel good about that if you're in the same room with those children? So what I've tried to do, and Keith has tried to do, and I want to finish with this and then maybe take a couple of questions. We've tried to create a space in Congress where it is safe. It'll never be safe. It's not, safety is not the right word. Where it is evident that it is the right thing to do regardless of risk, to take more objective, informed stands on these things. Regardless of the risk. It's not about safety. And I'm proud to say that there are some positive things happening. Phyllis is exactly right. Things are changing. When we had the Goldstone resolution, we had 54 votes present or against. And not only were there votes that way, but the passion of the speakers who went down there and spoke. We've had, I think, 11 members go to Gaza. I've taken several myself on different trips. There are organizations like yours who've been in the toil and struggle for a very long time, and thank you all for your work. It takes that time and that work. The Gaza Flotilla had a powerful impact. J Street is making a difference. New America project is making a difference. The New America Foundation. People like Craig and Cindy. The Tide and the Kairos project. This last week we had this crazy juxtaposition. I was at a dinner with the Kairos Project, with clergy members, evangelicals, Muslims, Jewish, Presbyterians, Methodists, etc., all in one room talking about how to bring peace and justice to the Middle East. At the same time, a much larger gathering had Reverend Hagee and Michael Oren at it. But the Kairos Project matters. And it's important to embrace that, because we are making progress and we are making a difference, and people are starting to get the message, and we're committed to that. And last but not least for me, I just want to be clear on something. The reason I'm not running for re-election, some people will say, well, oh, easy for you to say this, you're not running for re-election. Two things about that. First, what does it say about our country and the situation if the only time a person can speak out is if they're not running for re-election? Something's desperately wrong in America if people assume, oh yeah, you can now speak about Israeli-Palestinian issues because you're not running for re-election. And that's the default assumption. In my case, as Craig and Cindy know, it is absolutely preposterous. My entire history in Congress has been a willingness to take very, very difficult stands and let the political chips fall where they may. The decision to retire has nothing to do with this, and indeed, the draw is to stay in, to continue this fight more effectively there. But I've got twin 5-year-old boys. Now 5, they were 4 earlier. But West Coast Swing District, I want to spend some time with them. But I want to assure you that that is not an end to my efforts on this. And you've got people like Keith Ellison and Donna Edwards and many, many others, and they deserve and need your support. The interests aligned against this are powerful, and sadly, they're not only not in the U.S. best interest, they are not in Israel's best interest, and they're certainly not in Palestine's best interest. One of the great ironies is that those who would condemn Keith or myself or anyone else who speaks out on this as somehow anti-Semitic, which is preposterous, or anti-Israeli, which is inaccurate, are themselves condoning policies that will undermine the existential security of Israel in two ways. The soul of Israel is being harmed by these actions. It cannot but be. And the security of Israel is being harmed by these actions. When the Shah's party and Avigdor Lieberman and those folks are setting Israeli policy, it must not be consistent with U.S. policy, and it certainly is not consistent with the Israel I love. And we have an obligation first to speak out in the interest of justice and the United States' best interests, but also, I think, in the interest of Israel. And that's why I visited Sderot on several occasions and will continue to visit Israel and continue to speak out as an American member of Congress, a friend of the Palestinian people, a friend of Israel, and a friend of justice and peace in the region. Thanks, and I'd be happy to take just a couple of questions.